word we hear all the time. In school, at work, on social media. Be your best self. Strive for perfection. Make it flawless. But what if perfection is just a myth? What if chasing it is the very thing that stops us from creating something truly original? Salvador Dalí, the eccentric Spanish surrealist with the wild mustache and the wild imagination, once said, "Do not fear perfection. You will never reach it." At first it sounds like a joke, but there's more truth in that one sentence than most self-help books could ever offer. Dalí wasn't mocking perfection. He was freeing us from it. He was telling us that perfection is a trap, a shiny illusion that keeps us polishing, fixing, doubting, and delaying. Because as long as we're chasing something impossible, we never have to face the truth. Creation is messy. Art is imperfect. And so are we. Think about it. Every masterpiece we admire, from the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel to the Beatles' rough studio takes, has flaws. Even Dalí's paintings, those dreamlike explosions of melting clocks and twisted landscapes, are filled with imperfections. But that's exactly why they feel alive. Dalí believed that imperfection wasn't failure. It was proof of humanity. In every brushstroke that didn't go as planned, in every shadow that seemed out of place, there was personality, emotion, and soul. He once said that mistakes are simply the portals of discovery, and he lived that belief every day. When others painted predictable landscapes, Dalí painted dreams. When others worried about what critics would say, he walked into galleries dressed like a royal ghost, declaring that the only difference between me and a madman is that I am not mad. He wasn't chasing perfection, he was chasing freedom, and that's where our story begins. In a world obsessed with flawless filters, 5-star reviews, and perfect plans, what can we learn from a man who dared to embrace the absurd, the unpredictable, and the imperfect? Maybe perfection isn't what makes art beautiful. Maybe imperfection is the true masterpiece. To understand Dalí's wisdom, we need to step into his world. Imagine Spain, early 1900s, a small coastal town called Figueres. A boy with restless eyes and a love for attention begins to draw. He's already different, eccentric, dramatic, impossible to ignore. Dalí was fascinated by the subconscious. He wanted to paint what couldn't be seen, the strange images that lived between dreams and reality. He said he wanted to make the invisible visible, but there's something fascinating about how he worked. Dalí didn't always plan his paintings. He let his mind wander, embracing accidents and surprises. He once described his process as hand-painted dream photographs. That phrase alone tells us everything. He was trying to capture the mystery of being human, not the neatness of perfection. Perfection, to Dalí, was sterile, lifeless. He said perfection belonged to machines, not people. Dalí's art was about the opposite. It was about emotion, contradiction, and madness. He painted clocks that melted because time itself felt unstable. He painted elephants with spindly legs because dreams distort logic. He painted himself over and over, exaggerating his own ego, mocking the idea of what an artist should be. If perfection means staying within the lines, Dalí refused to even acknowledge the lines existed. And that's why his work continues to shock and inspire today. He dared to be bold enough to be wrong. He dared to be ridiculous. He dared to be real. Dalí once said, "Have no fear of perfection. You'll never reach it." It wasn't an excuse for laziness. It was a call to action. Because when we stop fearing perfection, we finally start creating. When we're no longer paralyzed by the idea of getting everything right, we start exploring. We experiment. We play. We become more childlike, curious, open, free. Dalí understood something most people never do. You can't create anything original if you're afraid of being imperfect. Originality lives on the edge of mistakes. Fast forward to today. We live in an age of filters, algorithms, and perfectly curated lives. Our phones correct our grammar, smooth our faces, and count our steps. Everything looks neat, measured, and clean. But beneath the surface, we're exhausted. We've become perfectionists in every sense. We edit our photos, our thoughts, our emotions, even our dreams. Dalí would have hated this. He'd probably find it hilarious too. Millions of people chasing digital perfection while their real lives crumble under pressure. He'd remind us that control is the enemy of creativity. Perfectionism disguises itself as ambition, but in reality, it's fear. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. Dalí didn't fear being too much. He was outrageous on purpose. He knew that by amplifying his flaws, he could turn them into power. When critics mocked him, he called them unworthy of his genius. When people questioned his sanity, he leaned into it. He made imperfection his brand, and in doing so, he became timeless. Imagine what would happen if we did the same, if we stopped over-editing our lives and started embracing the chaos instead. Maybe the parts of us we try to hide are the parts that could make us unforgettable. Dalí's quote is not just for painters. It's for everyone who's ever hesitated to start something because they thought they weren't ready. It's for every student afraid to write the first sentence, every entrepreneur scared to launch, every musician who keeps rewriting the same song. Dalí's wisdom whispers, just begin, because perfection will never come, and that's okay. Dalí's life teaches us that art isn't about reaching a destination, it's about becoming, and becoming never ends. He treated every painting like an experiment, a moment in time, not a final verdict. When asked how he knew a painting was finished, Dalí laughed and said, "A painting is never finished. It simply stops in interesting places." That's how he saw life too. Never finished, always evolving. Perfectionists wait for the perfect moment to act. Artists, on the other hand, act and make the moment perfect. Dalí believed in momentum over mastery. He wanted to keep moving, to surprise himself, and maybe that's why he stayed creative until his final days. Because if you never expect perfection, you never stop learning. When we let go of perfection, we give ourselves permission to grow. We stop judging ourselves by impossible standards and start finding beauty in progress. That's the essence of Dalí's philosophy, to live like an artist, not because you paint, but because you see life as a canvas, messy, unpredictable, beautifully unfinished. So what happens when you stop fearing perfection? Freedom. The freedom to fail. The freedom to start again. The freedom to laugh at your own mistakes and keep going. That's what Dalí understood. He wasn't telling us to give up on excellence. He was telling us to redefine it. Excellence isn't about being perfect. It's about being fearless. When we stop trying to be flawless, we start being real. And real always beats perfect. Dalí's life reminds us that creativity isn't something sacred or reserved for geniuses. It's something we all have, if only we're brave enough to use it. So the next time you hesitate before sharing your work, remember Dalí's mustached grin and his wild, dreamlike world. Remember that he wasn't chasing perfection. He was chasing wonder. And maybe that's the lesson we all need today. Do not fear perfection. You will never reach it, and that's exactly why you should start now.